Hello everybody, I'm still in Canada as you can see, and I'm being a proper tourist as well. I just wanted to make a video today because although on the way I did say I might do a couple of setting the world to rights kind of videos rather than just music ones. And I'm talking about something that there's been a bit of shitstorm about recently, which would be again Pat Condell, and it's not unusual for there to be some sort of controversy going on regarding Pat Condell. Now, for me, the very first YouTube atheist, if that's the word we're going to use, I don't really like the term, but that's what we're using. The first YouTube atheist I ever watched was Pat Condell, and needless to say I was not very impressed by his channel. I find him to be acerbic, embittered, the word I use is facile. He just seems to have an unbelievably binary view of the world. The first video I actually watched by him, I actually agreed with every point he made in it. This was one of the ones long before he was advocating people vote for UKIP. But even though I agreed with every point, I still didn't like him. I didn't like the way he delivered it. I didn't like his attitude. It seemed needlessly aggressive, like I said, needlessly acerbic. He didn't seem to be talking to anyone, just sort of at them, just hurling this information out. And this is emphasised by the fact he never seems to interact with anyone on YouTube. He never seems to reply to comments or anything like that, or engage in any back and forth discussions. He just seems to be hurling this information out there and hoping it will stick to some people, which sadly it does. Obviously one of the biggest controversies with Pat Condell is the way he talks about Islam, or more specifically that Muslims. And yes, there is a difference, just as there is a difference between Christianity and Christians, there is a difference between Islam and Muslims. And the way, of course, Pat seems to deal with this issue. Now, when you put up a video entitled "Welcome to Saudi Britain," it becomes pretty clear that there's a definite sort of racist edge to this. There's definitely a sort of nationalist edge to what he's doing, and if he wants to try and smuggle that in with atheism, he wants to try and use atheism as an excuse to talk smack about Islam, he's not done a very good job of it, really. It's very obvious, that's what he's trying to do. That he's trying to smuggle in some sort of a nationalistic, racist or xenophobic ideas. Now, there is this phrase you hear used pretty much from atheists all the time whenever you discuss Islam, or whenever you criticise someone else's criticism of Islam as being racist, or criticism of Muslims, I should say, that's what I said, which is, of course, Islam is not a race. And this phrase is repeated ad infinitum. It's a stock copy and paste phrase. You see it everywhere. YouTube videos being blurted out in YouTube videos, on podcasts, everywhere. Islam is not a race. And of course, a lot of the time I suppose no, it's not a race. I do agree with that. But I think when a lot of people use this phrase, they're missing the point. They're perhaps unintentionally attacking the straw man. Now, when people like Pat Condell put up videos that say "Welcome to Saudi Britain," and that's the word he's used, and also makes a reference to Saudi, he is racialising the term. He's bringing racial terms into it. Tommy Robinson and people like that do this. They describe, or EDL in general, who Pat Condell, of course, has spoken out in support of them. They do describe things like Islam as being un-British or un-Western. And of course, again, these are the people bringing racial terms into it, because Islam isn't a race, but being British, I'd say, does qualify as being a race. That's that's if someone was opposed to British people, if they were anti-British, we'd consider them racist. So it's actually these people who are racialising the term. They're bringing race into this, and yet they're the same people going, look, you can't say we're racist because Islam isn't a race. But yet they're bringing all this racial terminology into it. Now, I should say at this point, I should have perhaps mentioned this before, the word race is quite a blurry word. It doesn't really have any meaning as far as I'm aware in biology taxonomy. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, if anyone knows a bit more about it than me. There is no such category as race. Race is a very nebulous term. It can be used to describe skin colour, or it can be just used to describe an entire species. We sometimes use the term human race, or we might use the term to describe a different culture and so on. And Islam certainly with it brings a lot of certain cultural traditions. It's notable in, I think, one of Pat Condell's videos a while ago. He said that he mentions something about when he goes to buy some beer, and he passes a couple of Muslim ladies on the way to buy, and I think the man who serves him in the corner shop is where he buys his beer is a Muslim. And what Pat perhaps doesn't realise is he's admitting in this video, and it took a long time since I watched it, and I've really got no intention of watching it again, is that he's managed to identify 3 Muslims on sight, right, visually. He doesn't mention how many secular humanists he passed on the way to the shop, or if there were any others in the shop, or how many Christians or whatever, because such people are not as easy to identify in this country. There isn't as much visual clue, unless they're wearing a t-shirt saying Jesus rocks or something like that. It's not as easy to get that visual clue, and so we do have a lot of the same problem. It's much easier to be bigoted against Muslims because we can visually identify them, and unfortunately that's the case. That's something I'd like to clear up. Sadly, I don't think particularly like YouTube, atheists on YouTube are likely to cotton on to this idea that Islam is not a race, is a straw man. When you start saying that, a lot of the time you're attacking the straw man. It's not that Islam is a race, it's just that that's not really why certain anti-Islamic people are being accused of racism. It's not because the people who are doing the accusing don't know the difference between a race and a religion. That's the thing. Okay, but moving on a bit, what's the actual controversy at the moment? Well, Pat Condell perhaps wouldn't bother me so much if he was just some neckbeard sitting around with a few hundred subscribers, posting his sort of stupid views to everyone. There's plenty of YouTubers like that, and plenty of them are atheists. I mean, you can sort of ignore them. They're just people you can ignore. But of course, Pat Condell has support, a lot of support from Richard Dawkins. Now, of course, Richard Dawkins is not a YouTube atheist, although he does have some content on YouTube. He's someone who's actually out there in the real world. Now, I think there's a thought he's given to Pat Condell is that you think he can get, I think it's 35 of Pat Condell's YouTube videos which are available on DVD from Dawkins' website. Straight away I can't see the point of this. Selling YouTube videos on a DVD to me is ridiculous. The whole point of YouTube videos is they're free and you can watch them anytime. You can also download them anytime using the YouTube downloader. I think if you're going to sell a DVD, you should at least put some original content onto it, not just regurgitating stuff off YouTube. To me, it sort of falls into the same category as e-begging, really. But anyway, that's the sort of support Richard Dawkins has given to Pat Condell. He's mentioned certain things about how he agrees with Pat Condell. Now, he has said recently on Twitter, as I understand it, something along the lines of how he's quite proud of the Pat Condell videos that are available from his website. He doesn't see this as automatically tethering him to supporting the EDL just because Pat Condell does, because, you know, agreeing with some of what Pat Condell says doesn't automatically tether you to everything he says. And okay, I can agree with that. A number of people I know, for example, have said, well, you know, that they like some Pat Condell videos, they don't like others. And to be fair, there's not a single person in the world I can think of who I agree with about everything. You know, that person, there's no 2 people in the world I think at all who agree about everything. So I understand if someone likes a Pat Condell video, you know, either, you know, likes it or actually clicks the thumbs up. It doesn't necessarily mean that they automatically take on all Pat Condell's political views. They aren't suddenly answerable for the fact that Pat Condell has dubious views. He has associations to what essentially racist political parties, is the EDL. But I think when someone comes out in support of something like the EDL, that's quite an extreme view. It's one that's very difficult to distance yourself from if you're going to show support to that person in other ways. With that in mind, what I would do personally is I would just distance myself completely from that person. And the reason I do that is because I just think there's too much mud there, there's too much shit that's going to stick to you. So I sort of understand there. So I understand that I don't think Richard Dawkins is himself a racist or anything like that. Rather, I think it's more that he's complacent to it. He's just sort of like, yeah, he's a racist, but so what? Seems to be the attitude that we're getting there. The problem is, though, again, Dawkins himself uses terms which are, I think are racist when he talks about Muslims. He described, when he was critiquing the teaching of creationism in Muslim schools, he described it as alien rubbish. Now, the term alien, again, you're bringing racial terminology into it. The word alien means foreign. So you're bringing racial terminology into a discussion which you're continually insisting is nothing to do with race. Islam is not a race, blah blah blah, by the way they're teaching alien rubbish. And I don't think creationism is alien rubbish. It's rubbish. It's not alien because we have Christian schools that have been teaching creationism in the schools. I think Catholic ones, I think there were some Catholic ones who were. I think thankfully a lot of them have stopped put to that. So it's not alien rubbish, it's just rubbish. It's no more, Muslim creationism is no more ridiculous than Christian creationism. It's the same pseudoscience which supports them. It's the same shit, different shovel, basically. And so I think that is the actual problem there with someone like Pat Condell. It's not just the amount of support he has. It's these high up support he has from someone like Dawkins, who again I don't think is a racist. But just someone who could be a lot more careful with how he talks about Islam. He talks about it in a very clumsy way, and he brings in racializing terms, if that's what I can say. He brings those into the discussion, and he makes life very difficult for himself. If you want to. Rather than using terms which can easily be considered racist, and then spending all your time explaining that you're not racist, you could just do the much quicker thing, which is try and phrase yourself a little bit better, and not use terms that could be considered racist in the first place. I mean, the thing is, with some of the videos I put up recently that were critical of Pat Condell and the EDL, I had people accusing me of being a Muslim. Just because they are so binary in their thinking, they can't imagine the idea, they just can't get their head at all around the idea that someone might actually have a view that isn't either complete hatred of all Muslims or complete love and embracing of Islam and the Quran literalism and all that sort of thing. And I just think if you're that stupid, I don't feel at all bad about calling you stupid if you actually cannot get your head around something like that. And of course I put up that video entitled I am a Muslim where I'm wearing a tea towel on my head, which is probably kind of offensive to Muslims anyway, just to sort of demonstrate how ridiculous this point is. And I've got no time for this sort of facile thinking. It's the same thing that goes on with, I know Raoul, again, atheism defended, I don't want to open that can of worms again, but he started using terms like real atheists, or capital A atheists, or pretend atheists. Raoul, where do you get off saying that certain people don't qualify as atheists because they don't happen to share your views, that they suddenly don't count as real atheists? I mean, at least an organisation like Atheism Plus, at least they have actually put a plus at the end of what they're doing. They aren't trying to just claim the term atheism for themselves. They realise that if they want to set up their own little group, they've got to give it an actual name. Okay, they've chosen the going to be NAF name, and the people running it are incredibly sort of, what's a good word to use? They're control freaks, basically. They're quite obsessive, quite dictatorial people, but whatever, they're allowed to set up groups if they want. At least they've picked a name, admittedly a NAF name, but they've picked a name that describes what their actual ideology is. They're not just trying to say, right, this ideology is now called atheism, because atheism, of course, isn't an ism, it's not an ideology. Yeah, so there's so many things I could say on this subject, but if you're just going to blurt out, this is what I would say to atheists, if you're just going to blurt out the phrase Islam is not a race continually, if you think that's a good argument, I'm afraid you're missing the point. And if after you've had it explained to you that you're missing the point, if you still use this, then it's quite legitimate of me or anyone else to say that you're attacking the straw man, because that's what you're doing. If you know that the argument you're attacking is not the argument that's being made, that is what you're doing. And again, if people are so facile as to think that you can't have a view of the whole Islam situation that is not either one extreme or the other, again, grow the fuck up. You know, start actually thinking. You know, a lot of these atheists on YouTube like to consider themselves to be free thinkers. By the way, most of them don't know what that term means. Thunderfoot doesn't know what that term means. When he got booted off Free Thought blogs, I remember he seemed to think there was something ironic about a site called Free Thought blog booting him off. And of course, free thought does not mean free speech. It has nothing to do with it. You know, free thought is actually the method whereby we arrive at conclusions, we form opinions, we form views based upon empirical evidence, reason and logic, yeah, not tradition, dogma and authority. And that's what free thought is. And if you're not applying that method, you cannot call yourself a free thinker. And again, these terms like rationalism and empiricism, you know, a lot of atheists on YouTube don't do that. And if you want to actually legitimately assign these titles to yourself, you're afraid you need to start doing that. And taking a long hard look at the way certain atheists essentially talk about Islam in this racist manner. You know, such people such as Pat Condell would be a good start. So anyway, I think I've rambled on enough there. I think I've covered all the points I wanted to, and a couple of points I wasn't planning to as well. Anyway, I may have another couple of videos like this to put up soon, but hopefully I'll be putting up some more music stuff as well pretty soon. But anyway, thanks for watching. Goodbye.